Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee with Casey. Today we have a special edition of Coffee with Casey. We have Donny Samson with me, who is the COO.
That's true.
COO.
You got it right.
COO of Samson Properties, and he does a podcast every month called the Front Door.
It's the Front Door.
Home Fries. He does. It's not a very popular podcast because I never heard of the thing. It's not on iTunes.
It's the Front Door Podcast.
The Front Door Podcast.
Yeah, we're right behind Bill Simmons.
And what does your Front Door Podcast talk about?
Well, typically what our podcast is for our realtors is to educate them. We've had Casey on a couple times, but we have a lot of our top realtors on. We talk about really kind of helping to teach our realtors better, using our top realtors to learn about how to work with buyers and sellers better, or educating them better. We've had our title attorney on. We're just trying to educate our realtors better. So it's more focused on our realtors, but today we're going to branch out and do it for the public and realtors.
It helps the sellers.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So
this will be a combination of helping sellers, helping realtors, and we're going to try and keep my answers to what? 5 words, 6 words?
Oh yeah, you're good at that.
And I'll keep it brief. But it's good to have another perspective instead of me yakking all the time. Perspective on questions that Donny has for the realtors, and the good thing about Donny is he not only runs the company, but he was a top producing realtor that did $30-40 million a year. Came up with a lot of these great techniques. So he's not just an executive; he's more an executive, huh?
Yeah.
Come a long way.
Just a pretty face.
Since we changed the diapers at Algonquin before that one match. So it is, Danny and I have come
good
a long
old
way.
days.
But he's not only executive here, he is also a really top flight realtor, so he understands the business. So Donny,
Great.
Turn it over to you. Knock yourself out.
Well, I'm constantly Casey and the Casey Samson team. For all of you guys watching, they're obviously our best team and our best agent here at Samson, and I'm always hearing stuff coming from Casey, and we're always talking about things, and I'm doing it wrong if I don't try to include and talk to Casey as much as possible on tape. And Casey's great enough, you guys don't know this, but teaching lots of classes to our agents. So now we want to put some of that out to all you all, help you all as a seller. So the first topic that you've talked to me a little bit about lately is this whole West Coast, how it influences East Coast real estate, and how you're starting to kind of take some of those tactics into your listings and talking to your sellers about it. So,
right.
I'm curious as to know kind of where that comes from and what does some of that stuff mean?
Well, our whole goal is for the 2019 to make the 2018 team obsolete. In other words, every time we come out, we want to come out bigger and better ideas and better things for the sellers and better ways of pricing. So we're always looking for what's on the cutting edge, what's next, Right. Now, I'm going to preface this by, I've said a lot that we're following the West Coast stuff that's coming east.
Sure.
But I am going to preface this by saying in 1994, we started a thing called Computer Loan Network, which was the predecessor to Lending Tree.
Look it up.
We started that in 1994. Lending Tree came out in 1996.
Yep.
So we started this internet thing, but when we came out and did that, nobody was on emails. They didn't know what email meant. Nobody was on the World Wide Web. So
that was before AOL doing the dial-up. You
lenders,
had to listen for the dial-up.
That's exactly what it was. So none of the lenders were online. So we were a little before our time.
Fun fact about Casey, he still has his AOL email address.
I still do. Well, that's how you know somebody's age. If they're
Exactly.
AOL, they're in their 50s, 60s.
Yeah, exactly.
If they're MSN, they're a little older, and so on and so forth. Okay, so let's talk about this West Coast thing. So we do a lot of houses that are expensive houses. So I wanted to see how do people present houses online that are $20 million houses, $30 million, $40 million
Right.
houses. So you go to Beverly Hills, you go to LA, and you kind of see the way they present them online. Now here on the East Coast, a lot of people think digital marketing is Zillow. So my ads are up on Zillow, they're up on Realtor.com, so we give you all this exposure. Well, that really is not it. I mean, what I wanted to create was these cool looking web pages with pictures coming in and out and telling a story of the house. So we did go to Agent Image, which is the designer, and they were doing like Jade's and some key people out on the West Coast. So we had them design almost the same kind of look and feel for our clients. So everybody's going to find your house online, and how it's presented online is critical, okay? So the first thing was we needed to make sure it looked great when you got there.
Sure.
And so that's really one step. The other step is the pictures they take there are fusion photography. They don't take normal pictures, so it's only the best pictures. So of course we switched to that, but there are companies that do fusion, but you get a different photographer every time. So what we did was we got a photographer or two that we really could put our bank on, and they're the only ones that do our stuff.
Yeah.
So the keys are critical. How you present those pictures are critical. What's in that web page is critical. And then the other thing, Donnie, was the staging of these houses out there. So there's three kind of main styles that people have. There's a traditional style, which is what most of our East Coast houses are in. There's a transitional, which takes you from a traditional to a modern look.
Right.
So that's called the transitional look. And then there's the modern. Well, on the West Coast, they take a home that's a transitional home and they turn it into a modern home.
Okay.
And they stage it in that way. So what we do is we take traditional homes and kind of stage them in a transitional way.
Okay.
So we take out the old gold lights.
Yeah, so
and
what does
put
that
in the
mean?
new.
Okay.
Well, real simple. If you look at the hardware, you got gold hardware, gold is old. Okay? So you put brushed nickel in.
Did you mean to do that? The rhyming?
The lighting fixtures, the old 1985 things you see in your hallways, take those out and put in recessed lights.
Right.
Take the old chandelier you have and get something modern for $300. So you can go ahead and do the plumbing fixtures, the lighting fixtures, the hardware, the paint.
Paint is big too.
Paint's big. So what I'm talking about is
Even how about, do you go as far as furniture or not sometimes?
No,
Okay.
I don't do that. But I do have a good person that comes in and repurposes what you have.
But like that might be your advice sometimes. Maybe you're not paying for new furniture for people, but there's a lot of times I would guess that if I'm selling a $1.5 million home, okay, you want me to have a stager come in for $2,000 and change out a couple pieces of furniture, whatever. Maybe.
Well, I'll tell you,
don't know.
some people do that. I don't.
Okay.
And I go with what's been, we've been really successful in getting things sold quickly and for above a list. So I haven't resorted to that, but we do bring in a stager. She does repurpose things. It's basically declutter, rearrange, fix some lighting fixtures and carpets. And let me tell you, if you take a $150 Wayfair carpet, is it Wayfair? Yeah, Wayfair carpet. Take out an old carpet, put that in. I mean, it pops the room.
Sure.
So we do little things like that. So we take it from a traditional look to a transitional look. Now, let me just explain real quick that a cosmetic improvement is different than a capital improvement.
Yes.
A cosmetic improvement is lights, plumbing, paint, carpet, little things like that.
Yep.
Now, every time you do a cosmetic improvement, you make $6 for every $1 you invest. So if you put in 10, you're going to get back 60. Now that's just a rule of thumb we found with all the houses that we do this to. And we may spend $1,000 one time, or we may spend
Seems like that's
10,000.
money worth it.
It is. So that's all we recommend. Now,
Okay.
capital improvement is new kitchens, new bathrooms, new deck, things like that. So we don't. If you put in $50,000 in the kitchen, you're only getting $25 back.
Right.
So that's for your own enjoyment for long term. It's not a short term deal.
Right.
So we recommend cosmetics as opposed to capital improvements.
It's tougher to get that money back.
Right. So in California, we kind of follow that as well. The other thing that we do is things like open houses. So in California, an open house is 45 minutes.
Wow, 45
or an
minutes.
hour. 45 minutes to an hour. But they're very short and condensed. Well, out here we're 3 hours, from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. So we did condense those down to 2 hours. I did like their reasoning because it gets a little stale when you're there for 3 hours. There's not as many people.
What
coming
creates
through.
buzz and activity, right? It creates
Yeah.
the sense of competition. You walk in a place and if it's an hour, I'm guessing, I've never done an hour. Well, I've done a couple 2-hour ones before, but an hour, there's people all over the place.
Right.
It feels like now you can't really talk to anybody as the realtor very often, but the people in there think this is a hop.
They got to get there, and they're on top of each other. So that does create that. There's two things that drive the market: fear and greed.
Right.
I fear I'm not going to get it, or if it's been sitting for 120 days, I get greedy and I try and steal that house. So we're trying to create that fear that somebody else might get this house from you. So 2 hours we found is right. And to be honest with you, we usually stay until 3:30, 4 o'clock anyways, because we're talking with that one interested buyer.
Right.
Or two.
Right.
So we'll stay with them and nurture them and get the rest of the people out and just work with them. So that's another thing from the West Coast. The other thing, and I think one of the more critical things too, is the internet today allows you to, as you're walking through the house, you get a feel for who are the buyers. You know, and I know, you know, we laugh about it, but it's very, very important when you kind of know that it's a couple with younger kids or older kids. Is it a 30-something? Is it a 50-something? Is there some reason they need to be around here? Is it a, you know, whatever? So you try and identify where the population, so all of the people that live here usually work 30 to 45 minutes away.
Right.
So on the north side of Vienna, it may be DC and Alexandria. On the south side of Vienna, it may be Arlington and Crystal City.
Right.
So you kind of target who you do. And when you create your ads, your Google ads, your Facebook, Instagram, you kind of target certain segments because you know that's where the buyer population is coming in. So let's say you have a pool. Well, that kind of lets out your 1 to 10-year-old kids. So you're basically looking for a 40-something with 12-year-old kids and above.
Right.
So that gives you a different group.
Right.
Okay. So it lets you, and we got that. You know, LA and Hollywood was great for how we do the houses, but it's more like Silicon Valley, San Jose, San Francisco, and Seattle for how we do our geofencing and how we go out and find our buyers. So when you put all that together, and the last thing, I think I've already had a last thing, but I'm going to give you one more.
You get a couple last things. Bobby, don't mind the camera on that you just walk in front of.
That big blob you guys just saw was Bobby Samson who walked in. So the last one is the pricing. So let's say a house costs $1.2 million.
Right.
You know, out there they'll list it for $1.1 million and just let everybody bid the living heck out of it. Before you know it, they're at $1.25 and it sells in the first weekend. So we don't do that here.
Right.
But we are very specific on the East Coast. But let me give you an example. Vienna, over $1 million. The average house takes 120 days, 119 days to sell. Okay? And that's because people overprice it, put in some wiggle room, and let
120 days?
119 days.
119. 119.
119. 119 days. That takes into account the ones that withdraw and are active and da-da-da-da-da. So that's a long time. And they're overpriced. And the way that they do it on the West Coast.
It's because our mindset, and I'm guessing most sellers you sit with, their mindset is, well, I got a 1.2, I'm going to price at 1.3, and then I'll negotiate down or I'll come down if I have to.
That's 1985 thinking.
Right, but that's what the public thinks, and that's how they end up at 119 days average.
Right. So the first thing I show them when I go to a listing appointment is a chart. And the chart says, here's the price per square foot of your size house. Here's what the price per square foot is if it sells in the first 10 days. And here's the price per square foot if it sells in 120 days. And there's a 10% difference in if you sell it sooner than later. So as I tell them that the buyers are very smart today, they're online, they see what we're doing, they see the houses, they're very educated. So when it comes online, they jump on it. So Michelle and Julie will chart the activity online of our houses, and it goes just like this.
Right.
So after 2 weeks, it's down in the basement.
Right.
So this group,
you've got to hit them in that first week or two.
You got to hit them in the first week or two. So if I'm at 1.3 and I have somebody, let me give you just a quick, perfect example.
Yeah, because I was looking for number examples because you and I are good at numbers. And we throw out stuff like 10% difference, average square foot, and that goes past some people quickly because we talk that stuff.
Right.
But give me like a real life example that we can talk
Let me give you a
through.
real life example. So I had a person that was on the market for 1.325.
Okay.
And they were on there for 2 years. And so
Hold on, 2 years?
2 years. Okay. They're very patient people. So, and we just settled last month.
It's longer than some marriages.
We just, I don't know how some people do it. They did it. So anyways, we get the property and I said, look, the house is worth 1.25. That's what it's worth. That's all it's going to appraise for.
Okay.
So,
so just being 75 grand high on price because they were listed. Okay.
Yeah, you wipe out everybody.
Gotcha.
So sure enough, a couple that have been looking for a long time for a house, just right around the corner, never saw this house because they had set their sights at 1.25. They never saw it. So we went to 1.25. They see it, they come in, they look at it, they put in a contract. Before we go do an open house, for $1.28. So they bumped it $30,000, and we never did the open house. So I'm going to make this statement.
And they did that because they were scared that there was going to be too much competition coming in at that 1.25 price range because it was really well priced at 1.25.
When you see a house that you love, you want to secure that house. I'm going to get this house.
Right.
And fear that somebody else is going to take it from you drives it up. I have one. We had one, again, that we just settled on Branch. We listed for 1.3. We had a couple of them at 1.3. And somebody came and said, we really want this house, and gave us 1.4.
1.4.
1.4. It was a $100,000 bid over the next highest bid. I'm
not going to speak to how well that buyer agent did on that deal.
Well, let me tell you something. Fear is a wild thing.
It is.
Fear is a wild thing.
Sure.
So what we don't want to do is, had I gone out at 1.4, everybody laughed at me, we would have ended up getting 1.25. Instead, we got 1.4. So there is tens of thousands of dollars on the line every time you list a house. And so the way I look at it is, I've got to be so good at our team, and I do have a great team, has to be so good at every aspect of that we're going to get that $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 extra dollars. And so, yeah, the marketing side of it, the way we present it, the way I do the contracts, yeah, there's a lot of West Coast influence in there. Mm-hmm. And I tell you one thing, I totally disagree with throw it in the newspaper, overprice it, let it sit, and see what happens. That is 1985.
Right.
And unfortunately, fortunately for me, that's what most of my competitors do, so I'm good with that.
And it's because Joe Public and other realtors that might come in and talk to Joe Public, they don't recognize and appreciate the power of the internet and the power of the information that's out there and how quickly, because people don't believe sometimes, if my home's worth 1.2, I want to list it at 1.3 because I need time for everybody to get it, make sure that the best offer comes in, I can negotiate if I have to. Whereas going off at 1.2 or 1.175 or whatever, if you think it's 1.2, the internet is so powerful, but it's tough to reconcile. How can everybody in the area see my house that quickly and jump in there? But what you're telling me is, look, Public, you got to trust it. People, the average home buyer that's tuned in right now that wants to buy your home, they're on the internet 6, 7, 8 times a day.
They're waiting.
They're waiting for the next new house. They know the next new house that comes in before any realtor because, look, we can be the best real estate agents in the world and checking the MRS all the time, but when you're buying a house for yourself, you're on and you don't even trust the one website you're on. You're looking at 6 or 8 different websites multiple times a day, at least my experience is, because you want to know when am I missing something?
A buyer will find their house 9 out of 10 times.
Sure.
I'm sorry, 99 out of 100 times. Because they are. It's their house. They're really into it. And realtors, bless their heart now, is what do you want to see? If you see something, send it to me and we'll go open it up and look at it. So the days of us driving around in our car and finding out what properties are, those are over.
Right.
The buyers are finding them, and that's why it's so critical that when I land on a house, it better look cool.
Right.
I mean, it better look really cool. Now, let's get back to this pricing thing, and I know you guys know I'm a stickler on pricing. It's so powerful that when somebody comes in and they look at a house, now if they're bidding on a house, I'll stay out of it. But if somebody comes in and says, hey, that house worth $1.25 million, I'll give you 1.2, you send out your documents, your pricing model that shows, I'm going to tell you exactly what this house is worth. And let me give you a perfect example.
So you'll do that as the listing agent. You'll get your proof ready to send. This is good for you sellers out there that are selling. You need a guy like Casey, but for your agents, have your proof ready. Don't just throw something out there and be like, well, hopefully it sticks. Like, you've got great proof ready, showed how you came to this, what comps you used, and you're going to tell me more about it, but you've got all that ready to give to that buyer's agent to justify yourself.
Yeah, you really have. Here's the pricing model that price per square foot, percentage of assessment, da-da-da-da-da, all the adjustments, all your updates, and you've got this document just waiting. And if somebody comes in low, I just send the document. Let me give you a perfect example.
Now, if they bid 1.28, you don't send them.
I don't send anything.
You don't need to tell them. No, I thought it was 1.25.
I'm good.
Back that down a little bit.
I'm good, but let me tell you something. So the 1.4,
yeah,
make this thing say 1.4 to that appraiser because there's a battle brewing,
Sure.
and that is getting this thing to appraise.
Sure.
So I did have to recreate this for the appraiser. But let me show you how powerful.
Use some of that funny math.
But let me show you how powerful this is. A new home was on the market for 1.5. I'm on the market for 1.5. I'm 4 years older than they are. So it sat on the market for 300 days. They finally bring it down to 1.5. It sells for 1.425. They're new, we're not. Okay. Same model, same builder, same everything. So they're 2 streets away. So a person comes into me and goes, I'll give you 1.425. And I'm like, nope. And I sent them the document, okay? And they upped it. Now, my seller would have taken 1.45, but we're on for 1.5. So, but my thing says 1.5. So send it out to them. They come back and say, we'll give you 1.475. Just on the document. We never countered them. Just on the document. Seller said, I'll take it. So just that the power of proving price.
Right.
Going to that buyer and their agent. And I'm assuming that the agent doesn't know how to price a house and the buyer doesn't know how to price a house. So I'm going to help you.
Well, even if they don't, which you're probably right. But if I was the buyer's agent in that circumstance, like I don't fault them because what they're hoping is that you don't have proof. Like you're just like, well, they just threw it out there 1.5. Let's try 1.425 because that's what the new one down the street got.
Right.
So it's not their job necessarily to analyze and make sure that they're giving you every dollar it's worth.
They're trying to figure it out. Hey, they sold for 1.425. I'll give you 1.425.
And they're trying to get the best deal they can for the buyer.
That's right.
And in a lot of cases, the seller might have been getting desperate or saw that one down the street. And if we're not educated great listing agents with great models put together and great pricing structure and really confident in our price, a lot of listing agents and sellers would have been like, well, the one down the street went for this. We got to come down, either take that or counter really close to it, right? But you were confident in your conviction and said you had the proof. So all of a sudden they're like, well, here's proof. This is why they are where they are. You know, so that's where the big difference is. It's showing that proof. The buyer's agent coming in, that's a fair offer and a fair place to start.
I'm assuming you're either trying to get a good deal for your client or you don't know what you're
doing. Or you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm trying to be nice about this. Nine times out of 10, they really don't know the price. So it's like, look, I'm going to make it real simple on you. If the average home sells for this dollar per square foot and they're the same age and same size and same everything, then we are what they're worth. We're worth $1.5 million. So, and we got $100,000 in the backyard. So I'll tell you what, that's what we're worth. We're worth $1.5 million. And then they come back and go, we'll give you 1.475. Seller says, we'll take it. So we got $50,000 more than the new house did.
Right.
Because I'm not going to take that crap. You know,
Right.
First of all, we priced it right.
Right.
We got that right group. And then we fought for our number. And we do this, like in March, I know this is a weird number. In March, just that technique made our clients like, what was it, $400,000. We had $400,000 in 50 here, 50 there. And one more example of that. My model says 1.25. Guy comes in, they finally give us 1.2 because my people want to get to D.C. and get the heck out of town. They moved here in Northern Virginia. Remember, it's almost like an episode of Always Sunny in Philadelphia where they moved to the suburbs, hate it, and want to get out of there. So anyways, they move here, they want to get out. So a person gives them $1.2 million. We'll take it. Okay. So they come back, they want $50,000 on the home inspection. $50,000. I said, okay. Here's the pricing model. You bought a $1.25 million house for $1.2 million. We're not going to give you $50,000 twice. We already gave it to you once. And they said, well, can we get the lawn furniture and the Weber grill? And it's like, yep, we were going to leave them behind anyway.
Yeah.
Where they're going, you don't have lawn furniture and Weber grill.
We're going back to the city.
We're going back to the city. You can have it. So we settled. So that $50,000 is a part of that $400,000. But see, if you defend the price, then you're going to defend it on the appraisal. You're going to defend it on the contract price. You're going to defend it for the home inspection. So, you know, now that's just what that is. That's a football coach thing. I mean, you and I are football.
Right.
You won a state championship, and I won 29 championships. We just like to win.
Right.
And in real estate, winning means getting your clients a lot of money.
Right.
That's what it means.
And in reality, now, obviously the seller has different motives, but in that case, like, you had the materials prepared to fight the home inspection hard. But if that seller wasn't so motivated to move, you probably would have fought harder even to try to get them more initially than you wouldn't have had.
Right.
But the seller was like, look, I'm good. I just want out. You know, so, but you had that pricing model structured. You knew that if you went back out to market, the seller's probably part of them was like, look, fine, just do it. But you knew, look, we are confident where we're at. If we go back on the market, we will get this or higher. Do not give in to their demands. And a lot of times that's our job as agents, to be confident in when we need to tell our clients, look, it's the best we're going to do. You don't want to go back out on that market.
Right.
Or, look, we need to be strong here because we can get this again, and this is why.
Let's talk about that, because that's really important in this whole scheme of things. Remember how I said the most people come up here and then they drop off? Okay, so let's say we have one buyer, and that buyer, we can't get together on a home inspection. We got to go back on the market. You lose 5% of that value of that house, just like that. Failed your home inspection.
Unless you knew you had 2 or 3, 4 buyers.
That's what I'm talking about. If I have multiple buyers,
right,
and you line up the multiple buyers, and not only do you take one, you must keep the other 3 engaged.
Right.
You got to say, look, most of the home inspections kick out, just hang around, don't go anywhere. Guy gave us a crazy price, stick around, don't go anywhere. That way, when a person comes in with 115 items, like happened to us, 115 items on a home inspection list. I said, well, how many do you want us to fix? They said, well, we want you to fix 115 items. I said, well, never mind. So, anyways, I read it.
What did you say, Casey?
I said, I'll tell you what I said.
No,
I said, we're going to fix
Don't tell us what you said. It's live.
We're going to fix 3 items. I said, we're going to fix 3 items. We're going to, they're electrical, they're hazardous. Your house could blow up and burn down, according to the home inspector. So I'm going to fix these 3 items, get an electrician in there.
It's amazing how many houses are just ready to blow up.
They're going to blow up.
At any given
houses blow up in Northern Virginia. Because if you listen to a home inspector,
they're all ready to go.
That's going to blow up.
They all could go down tomorrow.
You have children, don't you? Oh, that's bad. Oh, that's not going to be good.
I can't believe you're living here.
How many children do you have? So, anyways, they're trying to scare these people to death. So, anyways, I said, we're going to fix 3 items, and you can pound sand on the other 112. And he says, well, what are you talking about? I said, well, I got 5 contracts. I'm just going to go to contract number 2 and tell them we're going to fix 3 items and then move on. He goes, so you'll fix the 3 items, right? I was like, yeah, we'll fix the 3 items. He goes, all right, we'll take it. So but I'm telling you, we think it's funny, but it's really not. Because Can you imagine a seller having to fix 115 items? And when you're it wasn't that big a house.
Yeah.
But it was on Hunt Valley. I'll send it to you. It's the craziest damn thing you've ever seen. So, the way I look at it is, so let's say you come to me and you're going to sell your house and you are an accountant or attorney or something. You don't do real estate. It's my job to protect you against basically yourself because you think the house is worth too much.
Yep.
So if you make that mistake, I know it could cost you $20,000, $50,000, $70,000, $80,000 bucks. So I know that.
Right.
So I work really hard to prove to you what the value is and how this process works and the risks and dangers. Now, not every seller is going to listen to you.
No.
But the ones that do, we make $400,000 on. The ones that don't, they sit on the market for 3 or 4 years, and before you know it, it's a nightmare. And I'll help you. So,
and there's on the flip side of that, there's times that if you did only have that one buyer, okay, and you've got to know the market and know what your home is and isn't worth. You had one buyer, you fought tooth and nail to get that contract in, and they came in 115 things. Now maybe we're not going to fix 115 things, but if you didn't think you had that support, look, you got to then talk to your seller real time and say, look, okay, we're not going to fix 115 things, but maybe we need to either fix 10, 20, 30, or look, maybe they need a $5,000 or $10,000 credit to fix all the stuff that they need to get fixed. It probably swings both ways. Now, obviously, your advantage is because you're pricing it at that good point, you do have backup options, so you don't have to do that.
Right.
But if you had gone off too high and had to come down and settle for some contract you weren't happy with, that's the time that you'd be like, look, this is the most we're going to get. We've been out there. You got to know whether that number's good or whether you can get it again.
Well, and that's
why they need a good pro.
Sometimes somebody will say, I think my house is worth $715,000. I'm like, well, the model says you're worth $700. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go off at 700 because the buyer pool under 700 is this big, over 700 in your neighborhood is this big.
Right.
So that's what we're going to do. If your house is worth 715, you're going to get 715.
Sure.
You could get 725.
Right.
Now, if it sits, he goes, well, I really don't want 700. What happens if somebody comes in 2-3 weeks from now and offers me 685? That's what your house is worth.
Right.
Because the buyers are out there, they're ready to go. they're looking at all the other houses. They're waiting for you. You come on. They look at you compared to the other house and go, nah, I'm not going to take that. I'll wait.
Right.
And then before you know it, you get one offer for $685. That's what your house is worth. The market says that's what your house is worth.
Right.
Now, once we go under contract with them, we got to be careful because you can't fail the home inspection. You can't, and let me talk about the disclosures up front. You can't, because if you go back on the market, remember you're going to lose another $30,000 or $40,000, and that's the nightmare we're trying to prevent. So that's why it's important that Michelle has a hot sheet of how old is everything, how old is the roof, how old is everything. So when you come back with your contract and your home inspection, you say, hey, the guy says you need a new roof. It's like, we disclose the roof is 25 years old and that's in the price. So I don't want to hear about that next because, this stuff is in the price.
Right.
If we had knew everything, you would have offered $800, not $750.
Right.
So you need to use that document as your weapon of disclosure.
Right.
To say, look, I'll fight it out with you, but I'm going to tell you, we told you that the HVAC was 14 years old, so I don't want to hear any of that.
Right. Right.
So that's why that preemptive strike on the home inspection, which is the number one most risky thing about anything we do, is that home inspection. Sellers are upset, buyers are upset, home inspectors telling the house is going to fall apart, your kids are going to get killed in a fire, a whole 9 yards. So it's an extremely volatile situation. Now, at this point, and if you're a real estate agent, I'm going to tell you this, okay? In a game, when we're in a big game, I mean a really big game.
I just like when he starts with the
exciting
game. I feel like we're going to get a good analogy here.
The more exciting the game gets, the calmer the coaches have to be.
Right.
Like you almost go into a catatonic state of calm because you've got to think things through without the emotions and everything else. So as a realtor, you have to get back into that catatonic state because is that the right word? I don't know. You guys are
Catatonic? That's good.
It's almost like a
tranquil,
quiet. You need to be calm, and you need
calm
to
and
calm everybody
focused.
down because I did that thing with one of the Samson agents where they had an FBI
negotiator,
hostage negotiator.
Yep.
You're there.
Yep.
Hostage negotiator. He goes, well, usually when I walk in, somebody's going to kill somebody. Somebody's got a gun to somebody's head. Somebody's got a knife, so I got to remain real calm. I'm like, oh my God. All I've got to do is talk a guy into dropping the price of his house a little
All I got to do is talk a guy off the inspection ledge.
But what he's saying is the more desperate the situation or the more volatile the situation, the more calm he has to be. So that is, we have to remain calm, come to a nice, and give everybody 24 hours to get the emotions out of their system.
Sure, absolutely.
Because what's your first thing a seller says when he sees the home? I'm not fixing anything.
I'm not fixing anything.
I'm not fixing anything.
I heard a good strategy once was when you send a inspection report and all the items over to the seller, be like, look, here's what it is. We're going to talk tomorrow about this. I've heard some realtors say, look, I'm not even going to talk to you about today about it. Yeah. We're going to regroup, talk tomorrow, because right now we're going to be we're both frustrated because of the list that came over.
Well, we need time to look it over, review it, and come up with a plan.
Because sometimes the alternative, you get so fired up back and forth, and you don't want to, I'm not doing that, or I'm not doing this, or I need this fixed. But both the realtors need to be the grown-ups in the room, step back and be like, look, you don't want to lose a house over the fact that they're not fixing this silly light, and you don't want to lose a buyer and go back on the market and risk the thing over what could be $500, $1,000, $2,000. It's silly.
Perfect example. Kelly's just doing it right this second. I just got off the phone with her. So we got a big house, a $1.45 million house, sold to a Samson agent, by the way. And so the home inspection comes back, and the inspector says this and that, and there's two contentious things here. It's like, fine, we'll have it inspected by a Class A contractor, and if it doesn't meet code, will it be fixed? That's it. Let's not argue about it. I'm not a contractor. I don't know whether the hole could be 2 centimeters or 8 centimeters. I really don't care. What we're going to do is we're going to have a licensed contractor look at it. If he deems it's not to code, he'll fix it. If it is to code, that's it. So we'll have a contractor look at it and fix it if necessary.
Right.
If it doesn't meet code, it will be fixed. Problem solved. Problem solved. We're not going to get all in a ringer over it. We're just going to find out. I'm going to get a professional in here to look at it. So, Kelly does a great job. Pat does a great job negotiating out some of these contracts. Billy, everybody, Pam, they're all good at negotiating these things out. But collectively as a group, we sit in here every Tuesday and go over best practices to get through every aspect of whether it's a listing or a contract or home inspection. And the fact of having Pam, who worked with Bernie Kagan for 10 years or 15 years, having her input and Pat's input from being in 30 years, and Kelly and Billy and all these great people in here, then you kind of come up with the best practices
right.
of how we're going to do it. So the best practice on a major issue like that is we'll have it inspected by a licensed contractor, and if it is, it is.
Right.
You know, let them decide. Nobody's gonna argue with a licensed contractor.
No.
Well, we in the listings in Deepore. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I mean it just depends if a seller wants it in there or an agent wants it in there, we'll upload it. But
So basically, we have
The question was, do we?
hot sheet.
The question was, do we put the disclosures in the hot sheet
The
up
hot
on
sheet.
we
Matrix?
do not put the hot sheet in the actual listing.
But we have it at every listing.
Yes.
So they have that. When they open up their brochure, it's in there. So we disclose to them in our brochures what it is. But you know what? It's probably best that we take that document, upload it, so they've got that in there too. But you know, we give it to everybody and say, well, here's your, you know, and on the website, we have our hot sheet on there too.
I wanted to circle back one thing and hit one point that I thought was really important. We were talking about $700,000 home and how somebody wanted to list at $715, and you said no, it's $700, and then it takes a couple weeks and they get $685, and you said, well, that's what the market says your home's worth.
Right.
Which I 100% agree with. But when you get there, I don't want to gloss over the things that you talked about early that make you secure that it's worth $685 because the market's said that. So sellers and real estate agents, you have to make sure that you are using all the influences and making sure the house looks great. Because the mistake people make is that they list it out there and they're like, and it's not showing its best form. The reality is it might be worth more than $685, and the market might have liked it more if you had done the proper things up front to make sure it looks good. So as a seller, you have to be willing to do these cosmetic changes that you're talking about. You have to be willing to accept the advice. You have to make sure that the websites look good and the digital advertising like you talked about.
It all's got to be good.
You've got it, the number one most important money that a real estate agent spends is on a great photographer as well. You know, I want to hit on that because you talked about how you've gone through and you've kind of laying it on one group and one or two photographers even within that group. Well, that's vitally important because that directly reflects how it's cosmetically dressed up with your new light fixtures and plumbing and paint and carpet and all that kind of stuff. How it looks, and then how it looks online to the people coming in, and the websites and all the things you're doing to make. You can, with 100% assurance, look at somebody 2 weeks on the market and say, look, we had 30 people in here, the best offers got $685, the market's worth that. Because you've done all these things to make sure it's put its best foot forward.
Right.
If you don't do these things, as a seller, you're like, no, I'm not doing all this. And as a realtor, you don't try to influence them and tell them to do these things, then you really don't know if 685 was the best you could have done because you rolled out an average home that could have looked better.
Here's your buyer pool of people that want a house that's ready, willing to go, that they don't have to put any money into. Here's a list of people that want to fix it up. Mm-hmm. So you just eliminated 80 to 90%.
And the people that buy it here
want it. What are they?
They want to fix
They're
it
greedy.
up. Yeah, they're greedy.
They're greedy. I'll do the work, but I'm getting paid for this work.
And they want a reflection in the price that they're going to have to put money back into it. So
that's why, you know, if you're with a buyer, let's flip this around and say, if I'm with a buyer, let me go find a house that has a new roof and nice windows, but is painted terribly, has gold plumbing, electrical, it has old lighting. Let me have that house.
buy the
Nice hardwood.
buy the ugly duckling.
Buy the ugly duckling.
For 30 grand less, you put 10 grand into it, it looks better.
Perfect example. People came to me and said, I want 1.45 for this house. And I said, well, it is worth 1.385. It's worth 1.385 all day long. And I said, it's a 2002 house. If you want it to price for that, you got to be a 2010 house, and that requires new electrical, plumbing, get rid of all the gold. Gold is old, get it out of here. So they did. They spent $10,000 and got, in the first weekend, 1.45 million. So if you're unwilling to do the cosmetic stuff, you will not get the top price.
Right.
And you need to be.
So you're talking about somebody that invested 10 grand, and you legitimately believe they got 70 grand more than $65,000 more than they would have gotten if they had just rolled out the way that it looked that day.
Model's not wrong.
No, I'm not doubting you. I'm saying that that's
it is
real life
absolutely
stuff.
100%. And not only, Donnie, is it on that house, but it is on other houses. Billy did one, 825, went to 890. because we repainted, redid this, got the hardware, put some new flooring in the kitchen. He spent $11,000, and we went from $825 to $890, whatever that is. 65,000?
74.
Huh?
825 to 890? 65? Yeah,
25
I thought you
to
said
90
899.
is 65.
Yeah,
So-
65. I thought you said
so-
899. My
So
fault.
there again, there's $11,000. We got 65. So my confidence level that $1 invested is worth $6
Right.
in profit is on the number, and we do it over and over and over again. So now let me give you another example. I have a
And that's hard to do. And I don't even know the example, but real quick, I sold for 16 years. The hardest thing, and it took me years in this industry to get to, my number one thing that I wasn't good at, in my opinion, was telling sellers what we needed to do to their home. Because it's hard. It's not an easy skill, to be like, look, I think your home's great, but here are the 15 things we need. That's an intimidating thing. Here I have walked into their home for the first or second time. I want them to hire me, or they've just hired me, and the first thing I want to do is, look, you need to spend 10 or 15 grand because you need to do all this, this, and this, this.
I credit Morgan Samson with solving that problem.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Here it is. So Morgan comes in and she studies and does the bath and kitchen places and all that stuff. And we framed it that the traditional look is out. The transitional look is in.
Right.
So all houses are in the traditional look. So basically, I'm not saying your house looks bad or traditional.
This look is
Everybody.
bad. Right.
This look is.
When you're
So
easy to engulf them into a concept, it's easier for them to move on than saying, this is wrong with your house.
Well, the number one thing you and I deal with all the time is curtains, right? Curtains
Sure.
and shears. So, well, see these big heavy curtains? That's a traditional thing. See the shears? That's very traditional. See the gold knobs? That's a traditional look. See the oriental carpet? That's a traditional look. So what you want to do is, without spending a lot of money, is take it from a traditional look to a transitional look.
Right.
Now, some are willing to do some things, some are not willing to do some things.
Right.
But in order to take it from a traditional look, so it's not saying that your curtains look bad or heavy or old, that's just a traditional look.
Right.
And the way you have this set up, that's a traditional look. You have plants all over the house, traditional.
Right.
They want linear, clean lines. That's what, so Morgan went to define traditional, define transitional.
Right.
And say, this is what you have, but this is what the buyers want.
Right.
So the sellers are 50, 60, and 70. The buyers are 30 and 40.
Right.
Right? Now, even if you have a 50 or 60-year-old buyer and they buy a house, they don't want to buy an old house.
Right.
They want to buy, any one of them that goes to California, goes to Florida or South Carolina or North Carolina, the house they're buying
It's not decorated in 1995.
It's not decorated in
It's
1995.
decorated, it's like 2015
You look at
or
that
19.
stone and go, let me ask you something. Where are you going to? Yeah. What have you looked at? Does it look like this? Oh, heck no. It doesn't have any gold in it at all.
No. They're buying something new down there, or that's been dressed up and redecorated and all that kind of stuff.
So what you're going to find is you're going to find one partner, the husband or the wife, or partner, whatever. One is in agreement with you, and one doesn't want to spend the money. Usually, to be honest with you, the woman is saying, yeah, I've been telling him that for 10 years, 20 years. He won't spend the money. I'm like, okay, then you focus on him. If I said you could spend $1 and get back $6,
Right.
would you bet the $1? Heck yeah. Now, if you lose, you're only going to get back $2. But if you win, you're going to get back 6, 7, or 8.
Right.
Would you take the bet? Hell yeah, I'd take the bet.
Right.
Okay, let's make the bet. So at that point, you kind of turn it over. And I'm just talking about, get this old Persian rug out and throw in a nice, Wayfair rug or something that's geometrical and gray and stuff like that, really cool. And he goes, do you know what that carpet's worth? I think for $200 it would look a lot better. Now, I'm looking at a $10,000 carpet. I'm like,
Yeah.
They all look the same to a buyer.
And you got the people that spend $20,000 on their curtains, and it's like
They're not going to flip the carpet over and see what the thread count is. They're not going to do that. Here's what a buyer does. They go like this. They're looking at the house. They go like this. Now, instead of saying they should use the word dated. Dated. Oh, look at that. Oh, that's nice.
Right.
Now, I'm telling you, you can take a dated room, remove the curtains, remove the blinds, remove the shears, remove the oriental carpet, put a hot, cool carpet in, put one window treatment or one wall treatment up there, and the room goes from oh to oh.
Right. And probably some new paint.
And some paint.
Yep.
And for God's sakes, go to your clients and tell them, do not paint the house. Don't do one thing to the house. Call us. Because I walked into a house, Donnie, I swear to God, and we walked in, a $1.2 million house, and I went, oh dear. And it had canary yellow walls. And
That's not the color you're recommending these days?
Oh shit, we gotta paint this whole house. And as we went into the kitchen, the painter was just finishing up. He just painted the whole house canary yellow. I had one guy paint the house so bad that Billy and I walked in, and we went, Billy and I were talking to him, and he goes, I said, well, first of all, we gotta paint this house. He goes, I just finished. The paint's not even dry yet. I just painted this whole house. And we were like, well, what color did you paint it? And he goes, these are Redskin colors. He goes, you find me one Redskin fan, and I want a premium. I swear to God, this is exactly what happened. I want a premium for this house. I don't want $950. I want $1,050,000 because you find me a Redskin fan, he's going to have this house. I went just like this. I got to go. Come on, Billy, let's go get a beer. And we went, I said, we got to go to the Vienna and get a beer. I'm so sorry. I can't help you. There's nothing I can do to help you. And I got to go. Because he was going to convince me that his house was worth more because it's Redskin colors. So I guess the moral of the story is it doesn't matter what you like, or what you like, or what you like, or what I like. It matters what 9 out of 10 buyers like.
What are the masses
And
like?
if that's going to be classic gray or Revere pewter or whatever, if that's what they like, maybe that's what we're going to paint it.
Right.
You know, and
you have to stop looking at your home as your home, but more as your most valuable asset, and you have to get the most out of that asset possible. And the way to do that is to expose yourself and make the most people out there like it as possible.
Yeah.
It's your biggest asset now. It's not your home
like
you
gray.
live in anymore.
You're not going to be.
I don't care what you like. You're
not
not rebuying your own home.
This guy I was at yesterday, we painted his basement. We had all wood in the basement. It was all wood. And so I went by and saw the house. I said, how's everything look?
He's probably watching this right now.
He goes, I don't like it. I don't like it. And the wife's like, really, looks nice. So I went downstairs and said, this is perfect. This is perfect. Oh, I really don't like it. I don't care if you don't like it. You called me you didn't call me to make you happy. You called me to make your house saleable.
Right.
And white is right. And this looks good. And wood is wood. What? Paint it white and light.
Yes.
Light is right. Light is good. Okay. Right. Dark is not good. So, you know, you go into kitchens, and if it's dark, you try and lighten it up. You try
Definitely.
And, you know, take down the curtains, take down the, you know, get some lighter bulbs in here. You're trying to make a house lighter.
Right.
You know,
you got to make it light and bright.
When you go to a basement and it's all wood, you just gotta lighten it all up.
Right.
You know. So, anyways,
and that's the biggest thing as sellers, we need to comprehend that. But realtors, like, you need to have the guts to say the things that Casey and I just said, because it does make a difference. It's the biggest way to get more money for that home. Be the rock star agent. Get those people that want to keep telling you you got to call Casey to sell your home. You got to call Casey to sell your home. But I'm telling you from experience, it's not easy. It's a hard hurdle to get over. But saying the things like we just said are what helps sellers get there. It's like, look, it's not about you. It's an asset now. You've got to sell this asset.
If you are, and I think, did you go to that big thing about the real producers? And you know, we were there for 8 hours. And they had all these.
Yes.
They had all these top producers up there talking about stuff. Do you know what everybody talked about? Getting clients, keeping clients, getting realtors, doing this, doing that, marketing. I didn't hear one of them talk about selling houses. So here's where I separate from a lot of top producers. I don't care about marketing me or marketing anybody. I care about learning everything there is about that house. What is the best flooring? What is the best paint? What is the best lighting fixtures? What is the best this? What is the best that? What is the pricing? So when I walk in, I'm so confident that what we've done works, that comes out. You have to be able to be the professional because you've studied it. If I'm a realtor, then I'm going to be the best damn, as a Marine thing, I'm going to be the best damn realtor in the world. So, you know,
be the best dang Marine.
Well, and if you walk out into the yard, and you got to be an expert on landscaping too. If they've got a cryptomeria sitting there, and that's a $1,500 tree as opposed to a $150 tree, you better be able to identify that as cryptomeria. You better, that's a magnificent Christmas.
First time I've heard that word before.
Well, you know why? Because the sellers spent a lot of money to put those really nice, they're Chinese evergreens, and they're beautiful. And so,
Japanese maples.
Yeah, you know, you got to be able to identify certain things that people spend a lot of money. You got to be able to identify what kind of path they put in, what kind of patio they put in, you know, what kind of siding. You know, you got to know your stuff.
Right.
And then you have to exude the confidence enough to tell people, see, here's the thing. I don't care if I get the listing or not. I swear to God, I do not. There are some houses I really like, and I really hope I get the listing, but I do not care whether I get the listing or not. I walk in, I said, here it is. I'm going to talk about pricing. I'm going to talk about staging. I'm going to talk about marketing. And then this is our plan, okay? And I'll go over all of these things with you, and I'll say with the utmost confidence, this is your price. I don't care what you think. I know what you think. But I'm going to tell you that this is your price. And then I'm going to go through and we'll up or down based on the upgrades that you have in your house. And you have to know, what does a showerless bathroom, how much does that increase the value of the house? How much does a brand new kitchen increase the value of the house? How much, you know, a person puts in, and here's a rule of thumb, okay? Let's say you buy a house for $1 million and you put in $200,000.
Okay.
And there's been no appreciation whatsoever. Your house is worth $1.1 million. You're going to get, for capital improvements, 50 cents on every dollar you put in that house. So you got to get used to that.
Right.
Now, a lot of people want to get that $200,000 out, but you're not.
Right.
Because you spent that money. It's for you, but other people aren't going to spend that money because it may not be exactly what they wanted and
Sure.
what they would have done. So they'll give you 100, but they're not going to give you 200,000.
Right.
So if somebody bought something 5 years ago, you add the appreciation rate for the last 5 years, and then you cut whatever capital improvements they were in half. Okay? And that's how you kind of come at these numbers. So you have to be able to also know, what is that worth?
And cosmetic improvements you made 10 years ago don't count. Because we hear that all the time too.
Yeah.
We hear, well, I repainted, I redid this, I redid that. Well, when did you do that? Well, 2009. Well, that's great, but that was 10 years ago.
Right.
Like, that.
A lot has changed.
Yeah.
A lot has changed in 10 years. Let me give you a perfect example. I got one house going on. It's a beautiful house. It's in the 1.6s, but they want to compare it to new houses that are in the 1.7s, and they'll have white cabinets
and kitchens.
They have quartz countertops. Well, 5 years ago, it was brown cabinets, and it was not.
And it was
quartz.
black granite.
It's granite.
You know,
So you've got granite.
I
and
may
you've
have had to
got
make
this.
that switch myself.
That is not, but that is not today's cabinet. So I'm telling you, in 5 years, the kitchens have changed.
Right.
So they want the new kitchens. Why? Because the new kitchens look cooler.
Right.
And they're like, this is it. Well, why does every builder do white shaker cabinets with brushed nickel things and the quartz countertops and the farmer's sink? Why do they do that? Because that's what's in.
And it doesn't matter if you still like brown and black and whatever. It's
You're
what
not a buyer.
90% of the public, you know, and the new home builders are a good guide really in this case because they're building their homes for spec, or the models they're putting out there are because that's what intrigues people the most. Builders don't set up these model homes to look beautiful or look average. They sell them up to look beautiful because they're selling the dream that this is what your house could look like. They're going to sell 90 others based on the way that one looks.
So let me.
So you need to make your house look as close to that as possible.
You were in Jackson Hole, I was in Jackson Hole, right?
It's a true
You were
statement.
going up and down the Snake River, I was going up and down the Snake River. So I went out and did some fly fishing, right? And the other guys are out there and they're buying flies. My guy is looking for flies on the bed of the river. And he's finding these flies and he's making his own fly that looks just like that fly. So he's replicating these things and he's making these flies. I'm like, you just described what I do for a living. I'm trying to replicate what they see in the new homes in your home. Now, we're not going to get there.
Sure.
We're not going to put in new kitchens and all, but I'm going to do as much of it as I can. To take a $300 old lamp and put a $300 new lamp in, I can do that.
Right.
Put that new carpet, I can do that. To do this, I can do that. I can paint the walls gray instead of,
Right.
let's face it, gray is the new tan. Okay?
Sure.
Everything was tan, and that's fine. And unless the walls need painting, I won't paint them.
Right.
But if they need painting, we're going gray. And we're going classic gray in the dark areas because that's a lighter gray. and you're going with the Revere Pewter, which is the best gray. If a room has any light whatsoever, you want to use Revere Pewter, because they're both, I think, Benjamin Moore paints. And I'm telling you, Revere Pewter is the paint.
And if you're a realtor and you don't know all these things, it's okay. Like, you can't know it all just because you know it all.
No.
You've got to learn it little by little. But if you don't, my advice would be you have to partner up with a stager, somebody that is an expert in this field, or an interior designer, somebody, because now you're offering this as part of your package, and the stager can come alongside of you and be that one that's giving all the staging advice if you don't know how to do it yourself, whether it's furniture moving or repainting or whatever. So I'm just saying, if you aren't an expert currently, don't give up. Oh, I'm never going to get there. I'm never going to know all the things Casey knows right now. He didn't know all these things 15 years ago either. You know, he didn't know all of them. We'd learn something new every day.
When Morgan came to our team, I had the same problems you did about stage houses.
Right.
Same. How am I going to tell this lady this kitchen is old? How am I going to tell her these drapes are too big? Until we frame the conversation.
Right.
Now it's easy.
Now
let me tell you something. When you walk into a house, I pretty much know how things are going to go. If they're telling me things instead of asking me things, we have a problem.
Right.
Well, let me tell you what this is going. No, the gold is in. And they're telling me stuff, we might have a problem. Now,
Houston.
when we start the conversation, at the beginning they may be telling me, and now towards the end they're asking me.
Right.
So when they're asking you questions, now you know they've said, you're the professional, you've proven it, go ahead and do it. Just what color do you want me to paint? You tell me. They've got to know that they're in the presence of a realtor that is a professional at doing the whole 9 yards.
Right.
And at that point, you've proven that. So if you don't know a good color of paint, you better get a stager and find a good color of paint.
Right.
And you need to be, when you walk out of that garden, you need to be able to identify certain things, and you need to know the paints, and you need to go to the home and garden shows, and you need to be asking questions about this flooring and that flooring. Why? Because the seller is an accountant, and he's doing people's taxes.
Right.
It's your job to go out and investigate. Let me tell you something. And again, somebody puts a brand new floor in the basement. Is this the new laminate? This is waterproof, right? He goes, oh yeah, it's waterproof. So I'm telling him what he just put in his thing. He researched it and figured it out, but I told him what it is. So he has confidence that, I just spent $2,000 and this guy appreciates that.
Right.
Or is this quartz or granite or da-da-da-da? They appreciate that. So as a realtor, you need to commit to the fact that I need to know what is the best stuff going into houses now, how to identify it, what do I normally see, what's customary for the houses I sell at. You just need to know it. And if you don't know it, and this is why I was so upset at that convention that they had, all anybody's talking about is how to get clients. Let me tell you how to get a client. You want to know how to get a client?
Do a good job with one
Do
client.
a great job and sell the house and tell all the neighbors you just sold their house.
Right.
And then when you go in, be a great realtor on the next one. And then you'll never starve.
Right.
We have, 4, 5, or 6 listing appointments a week because all we do is do a great job, sell the house in a week, or get a lot of money for the house, and then tell every neighbor we just did that.
Right.
We send it out your guys' cards.
Right.
That's it. So the marketing is set from us, and our team is secondary. The primary thing is to become such an expert on what goes into that house and what is customary for what it should be and what the value of that is, and proving the value to all these people. That, to me, that's the most important thing about being a realtor.
Excellent. Now, I had a note in here, and we probably covered a lot of it, to talk about the luxury home market. And you work in that market a lot, so kind of a good shot for you to give an update. Kind of how do you think that luxury home market's working out there right now?
It's fine, as long as you price it where it should be.
Okay.
So let me explain the difference between the luxury home market and the regular home market. So a lot of the sellers that we have are A-type. They are executives. They are big money guys. They're women. They're, they know their stuff.
Right.
They're not stupid.
Right.
They're very smart. Now, some of them, think it's worth this and it's not. And again, once you start that path of proving the value, then they'll come down to it.
Right.
Because what happens is, again, one or the other agrees with you. I'm not sure which one yet. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to
Got to find my ally. Which one is my?
I'm going to give the information that I'm going to give the information that they need in order for the right one to prove themselves right.
Right.
So when I'm done with you, there's going to be no question what this thing is worth. And at that point is when they stop telling you things and start asking you things. So the overall market is 119 days on the market for homes sold in Vienna over $1 million.
What's your average?
13 days.
13's a
So
lot less than 119.
Well, and I'll tell you one thing, and again, Donnie, I think that, the record, we did like 12 and, before May 1 or something, and the next person was 5, and this woman who did 5 sales has $95 million worth of inventory. So she's going to get 5 sales. But everybody else is in the 1 or 2. So they cherish those listings so much that when a seller, perfect example, I go into a listing, it's worth $1.65 million. So they go with another agent. It's on the market for $1.9 million.
Because there are some agents out there, to your point, that
They need a listing.
they just want to have the $1.9 million listing. So they can say they've got a $1.9 million listing and they can advertise. Right.
I don't want your listing. I want to sell.
Right.
If it's going to sell, I'm all in. Because I'm going to commit Michelle's time and energy, Julie's time and energy, Billy or Kelly or Morgan or Colby or Pat or somebody. I'm going to commit their time to going and sitting in your house for an open house on Sunday afternoon, and I'm not going to commit everybody's time if it's not going to sell.
And what's easy to do is to tell say the person that thinks their house is worth 1.9, say, oh, it sounds great. I'll love your listing, I'll market it, and let's go on and see what happens. That's what's easy to do.
I'm going to get an ad in a newspaper, and I'm going to put your house right here, and I'm going to stand right next to it like this. Come buy my $1.9 million listing.
Right.
And that way, maybe I'll get other listings.
Right.
Maybe I'll get buyers off of it. I'm not, you ask a lot of agents, they're here to get buyers. I'm not here to get buyers, man. I'm here to sell that house.
Right.
My whole focus, sell that house. And
But-
if I think we can do it, we'll do it.
Right. And the good listing agent will look at the person that says their house is worth 1.9 and show them why it's worth 1.65 and show them the things that can make it sell for 1.65 or 1.7, the right price and its maximum price in the marketplace by dressing it up.
Do you ever watch Pawn Stars?
No, but
You don't watch Pawn Stars?
I've heard your stories about it.
Hey,
though.
the rest of America, I know you watch Pawn Stars, okay? It's the #1 show on TV. Don't
Number
watch Pawn
one.
Stars.
Number
So here's
one.
what he does.
Wow.
He'll come in,
thought it was
and a
American
person
Idol.
will come in, and they'll say, I want $10,000 for this item. He'll bring in an expert, because he's always got to bring in an expert, because he doesn't know, he's always got to have an expert, a friend of his. They come in, and the guy goes, oh, yes. He gives you the history of whatever the item is. He said, it's worth retail $3,000. And so he goes, okay, thank you. So he walks off, and the guy was asking 10. He goes, I'll give you 1,500, okay? And they'll blah, 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 and they'll say, oh, we're too far off. Thanks for coming in. Shake their hand and walk the other way, okay? Well, sometimes you just have to say, you're so far off that we're not going to make a deal.
Right.
I mean, it's not the difference between 1.65 and 1.725. It's 1.65 and 1.9.
Right.
Thanks for having me. It's nice meeting you.
Right.
I got to go.
Right.
So sometimes it's just so whacked out of there that they're not going to listen, and that's okay.
Right.
And that's okay. So, my theory is listed at 1.9, but I had one of these on Oak Valley, and I told them 1.45, and they put on for 1.89.
That's a lot higher.
4 years ago. 4 years. I swear to God, you can look up 4 years ago.
It's still on the market?
It just sold for 1.45. I swear to God. I swear to God, it's Oak Valley. You can look it up. So, anyways, it lasted. It's been on there for like 4 years. They've had realtor come in, realtor come. But you understand, I value Michelle's time.
Right.
And I value all the agents and Julie and all the agents. I so value their time. It's like, and here's what.
Well, you've seen the movie. You know how it ends. You're going to have conversations with this seller every single week for the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, who knows, 4 years.
If we get to 3 months, you don't want me and I don't want
Right,
you.
and your story isn't going to change. I told you it was worth 1.45. I told you it was worth 1.45. There's nothing I can do for you if
Maybe
you
the
think it's
pictures
worth
are
1.8.
wrong. Maybe the pictures don't show
Maybe
it
we
right.
should relist it. Oh, that's why it's $300,000.
I swear. Maybe, you know what? You're not mentioning that we got a walkway back there. You're not doing, this is the problem.
I've seen this movie. I know how it ends.
Yeah, I do.
And sometimes you can sit with somebody that's unrealistic, and you have to understand that.
I'll tell you who I'm trying to protect. Let me tell you who I'm trying to protect. So I'm sitting down with a couple, and I say, your house is worth 1.5, and it's like, well, if we could get 1.5, that would be great. I'd really love that. Okay, we'll do 1.5. You want us to fix this stuff up? Y'all fix that stuff up. I'll do whatever you ask me to do. That's the person I'm protecting. I'm protecting them. Because I'm going to give you my attention, and I'm not going to give the attention to the 1.9 that's trying to sap my time, energy, and money, because I only have so much energy these days. So I need to put my energy
because you're getting old.
Agent's energy. I am. That's why I take my naps. But that was so funny. Oh, well, but Pat, somebody says, I'm really going to sleep well tonight, right? And Pat says, I'm really going to have a good nap today. That's the difference between us old guys and young guys. But anyways, so the whole time I'm thinking about protecting my clients.
Right.
From good clients, from bad clients.
And
that's why
I didn't do a great job of that always in my first 10 years, because that 1.9 in your example here will sap your life. They will sap you. I always tended to have one client out of 20 that I was working with that was sapping all my juice, and you've got to learn when to get rid of the juice sapper, the one that's sucking all your energy, so you can really give it to the good people.
And you kind of look at it, and you're chasing that commission, and you're chasing that deal, and you don't want to give them up. And every realtor, I do it too. Everybody fights over that. I really don't want to give it up, but on the seminars I give to our agents, you only have so much time, energy, and money. And if somebody's sapping that from you, and let me tell you something, the most important thing of all of these is the energy. I mean, we can get more money or time, but that energy just sucks it out of you, so you don't have time to really go after or give the best for this client because you got this client.
Right.
So I always say that the best listing is the one I didn't take. And Carol reminds me, she said, well, didn't you go talk to them about selling that house? Well, it looks like they settled with this other guy. They're going with another guy. Yeah, sit there for 2 years, honey. Stop talking to me about that. Didn't get that listing, huh, Casey? Yeah, that's because they wanted 1.9. So anyways, she's there to remind me. But I'm going to tell you, I'm protecting my staff.
Right.
I'm protecting my agents. I'm protecting
and your time, energy, and money.
And I'm protecting my time, energy, and money by just staying with the good sellers.
Right.
And they're the ones that deserve our attention.
Right.
And it is tough because if you only have 3 listings, it's hard to get rid of one. But if you got rid of the one, you took that time and energy and money that one's sucking on you, you probably can get 3 more.
Yeah. Exactly. So. It's tough to get with.
Yeah.
Well, good. This has been a great conversation. Casey, any thoughts we didn't get to that you wanted to get out there to the public today?
Well, in general, Donnie, you asked about how is the luxury market, how is the whole market. I would just say this, that the market in 2017 was a non-election year and was a great market. 2018 was an election year and it was not a good market. 2019 is not as good as 17, but it's not as bad as 18.
Okay.
So it's somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
What do I see for the future? I see the politics getting nastier. I think we have an election year coming up. I think if somebody's going to sell their house, they should do it between now and next May.
Okay.
Or because I think that historically, as elections get close and uncertainty gets into the market, there's a lot of anxiety and the markets tend to go down. So I think that if you're going to sell a house, then I think you should really focus on getting it done now through the fall, latest this early spring, because I don't see 2020 after June being the right time to do it. So I think right now it's fine.
Just because uneasiness and anxiousness in the market and
uncertainty in a market is not good. In any market,
makes people uncomfortable.
Yeah,
makes buyers scared about getting out. And that's
is my job going to be here? What happens if Republicans stay? What happens if Democrats come in? What happens if this? What happens if that? That's uncertainty.
Just uncertainty. Even
even
if 20, 30, 40% of the market is uncertain, then it really can trash a whole market in general.
Yeah, I really think it can. I think uncertainty is bad, and I charted this stuff throughout all my whole career, and I do see that elections here. Go all the way back to Bill Clinton. When Bill Clinton was elected, right before he was elected, the market went like this, and then after he was elected, it went like that. And that's what happens. So I think that, especially when everybody's as nasty as they are right now, I've never seen anything like what's happening right now. Right. And I just think that it's people are sick of it. You know, they're sick and tired of it. So I think that the market right now is a good market, not a great market.
Right.
You know, people sit down, oh, it's the greatest market of all time. No.
Right.
It's a good market.
Right.
You know, and 13 days on.
Which is almost better, you know, haven't been in it forever, but 17 years now, for me, 16 years, like, it's not healthy when it's so crazy and there's 100 different bids, you know, and then it's not healthy when it's the other side and you can't sell anything, you know.
This is bad.
Yeah,
This is good.
A nice, steady, good market where it's, you put the right house out there at the right price that looks good, you get a couple bidders on it. You know, you put the wrong house out there at the wrong price and it sits. You know, it's a level, good, competitive market out there that there's enough buyers for the right homes, but if you're not priced appropriately and don't look good, then people aren't going to be interested.
If you're $25,000 overpriced, you're not selling.
Right.
I'm just telling you, you're not selling. If you're 50, if we put one on, I swear I should have gone $699, and the lady was almost upset. She said, so every time I try and be nice, well, let's put it on for $710. I want to kill myself. I want to kill myself. I missed the market, and it took us 30 days to get it back down to $699. I think
Then
we
you
got
took
$685,
$680. Yep.
and we took $685. And I'm like, you know what? Every time I try and be a nice guy and don't play calm, every time I try and be a nice guy for somebody, it doesn't work.
Right.
It doesn't work. So you have to just, you know, I'm not trying to be
In
mean.
retrospect, you
I
should have
just-
stood up and said, look, no, this $699 is where it needs to be. You're going to have
Yeah.
to trust me on this.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you know,
And
I've seen this movie. I know how it ends. It ends with you getting $685 when we drop the price
And
to
I will say
$699 in
this: I
30
had an
days.
older couple, 85, friends of mine, their parents, and da-da-da-da-da, and I was too nice, and eventually just didn't work, and they went with another agent. The thing fell. $70,000 less. A contract I had for $835. I had it. I said, you got to take it. And they're like, oh, I will wait. We'll wait. Oh, okay. I should have jammed it down their throat. I should have said, you take this. So anyways, when they didn't take it, I said, that was our best offer. So
Right.
I can't help you anymore. So they went with another RE/MAX agent, Reston, and they ended up getting $767. And it cost them $30. So I don't blame them. I blamed me for that. And that is because I just was too nice. I should have really been more forceful. And they ran out in the middle of the street and got hit by a bus with another agent. And it's like, I don't blame them. I don't blame them for deciding to go with somebody else. I blame me for not being forceful enough. So we all still make mistakes. I still try to be tougher, and still your heartstrings sometimes, you know, get you into it. But, you know, we're the professionals.
Right.
And we got to be professionals, and we've got to make sure that we get it where it is, staged where it is, and market it where it is. You know, so that's the way we do it.
Awesome advice, Casey.
And let me just say this: under your tutelage.
Uh-oh.
Well, I was just reading that. That's a big deal. I mean, Samson Properties is now the #3 realtor in the Washington metropolitan area.
Pretty cool, huh?
Now that's pretty cool. I mean, I think when you came in, we were 6 or 7 or something, but you climbed this thing back up. You and Danny and the guys and girls have climbed this thing back up to #3, and that taking into account there's Long & Foster, it's going to be #1 since 1960s. They're not going anywhere. The second group is Compass, who came in and bought a bunch of agents, gave them all signing bonuses to be on their group.
Right.
So that is another company that just came in and bought their way into the area. You guys grew this from a little office to 2,100 agents. How many agents?
24 plus now.
2,400 agents.
Yeah.
And the #3 in the country. So
19 offices.
considering that Long & Foster is no longer a family-owned company, then I would say this would be the largest family-owned company in the Washington metropolitan area.
That's a true statement.
And I think
it's pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, Danny's got a lot of guts, man. Danny's got a lot of guts, and you got a lot of operational skills. So I commend all you guys, and let's keep the lights on and move forward.
Awesome.
All right,
Thank you.
job. Well, that's it for another edition of Coffee with Casey, Donny Samson,
and the Front Door
from,
Podcast.
From the Home Fry Podcast or Home Door. I'm sorry, what is it again?
The Front Door.
The Front Door. You know, you're gonna have to get T-shirts made because I can't remember, huh?
You're getting confused because our newsletter's the home front.
Oh, our newsletter's the home front. You're the front door, so that's why I call them the home fries. Okay.
There you go.
Well, you're gonna have to get some T-shirts made up of this because I don't know if I can.
Deal.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us for another edition of Casey Coffee with Casey. Thank you to Michelle. Thank you to the lovely Leslie for putting this thing on for us. Again, when you came on board, the whole Samson Properties elevated on their social media platforms. And again, that's a West Coast.
There you go, West Coast.
See you next month.